Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog. My name is Alex Romero from Golasso Learning Solutions. This week we're going to be looking at the AICPA Fall Council meeting. Yes, it's already been 6 months since we had our last meeting, and this one was in Denver, Colorado, my home state, this past week. And so this actually was my 7th time going to a council meeting. I'm very fortunate in that regard. And so it's always something that I really love to go to and really hear what's going on in the profession and how we can engage to really move things forward. So let's take a look at some of the agenda items that we had. We had first off, starting out the day with the Rise to the Future Together, and this was led by the AICPA CEO, Mark Cozile. Then we had a unique conversation with the Alliance for Responsible Licensing. And so we had a couple of CEOs that created a panel, and they were talking about, we have an idea of what's going on with the licensure and deregulation in the CPA world, but then it's also going on in other licensing. So we had a landscape architecture that was talking about what they're seeing in their world. So it was really great to hear from these different industries and to know that we're not alone and they're really working together to really combat this issue nationwide. Then we also had something that we haven't had in past council meetings and something I really liked. So we had a guest speaker come in. His name was Bill Staten, and he talked about connecting the dots and not missing out on opportunities. And so he gave some really great examples about really helping launch the career of Bill Nye, the science guy. He was a junior writer on a show that Bill was the executive producer for, and he let Bill kind of do a segment and it launched his whole career. So just not second guessing and sometimes going forward and really trying to do something that maybe you were hesitant about and seeing what comes from that. Then we had a group activity and an update about the Rise 2040 initiative. And then our second day, we looked more at the advocacy and our state and federal advocacy updates, and then our workforce and talent update. So as I said, we started out the day with our Rise to the Future Together. This was Mark's presentation that talked about all the things that's happening now and into the future with the profession. I would encourage you to pause the video at this point so that you could look at all those different items that are here listed on this slide that he went through, because I certainly can't go through all of them on this blog, but really he talked about what's going on currently with the different pathways, then our regulations and legislation, and then also the business outlook and things like the tariffs. So he covered quite a bit of information in his little over an hour presentation that day. Next, we did get that update on the Rise 2040 initiative, which is going out worldwide and bringing people together through a session that's being facilitated to really look at what everyone wants to see as the future view of the profession into the next 15 years, so from 2025 into 2040. So we got to see some of the initial insights that have been obtained by the different facilitation sessions and what we are going to be seeing moving forward as the AICPA continues these different sessions and then ultimately comes together with a book and something that is going to be called the Rise 2040 Project, which will tell us what our future view is for the profession. Day 2, we really focused on some different advocacy. So we had our federal and our state advocacy update. Our federal came from Mark Peterson, the VP at the AICPA, and he talked about what was going on a federal level, but I also wanted to show you the CPA pathway legislation update. So first we have the map of the US that's showing the different states that have done some different pathways and some legislation that has already passed. And then those blue states are those that have something active that's rolling through that process. And then our gray states are those that have yet to do something. But a lot of those gray states are in the active movement towards looking at an additional pathway. They just haven't had a legislation session to actually introduce any bills. And then our next area that we're looking at here is a slide that's showing a picture that has the different effective dates for our pathways. So not all the same effective dates across the board for our states. So this is really helpful to see which states are going to have these new pathways coming into play and at which time. Then we focused on the state advocacy from James Cox. He's the VP over that section at the AICPA. And we really looked at the different items at the state level and what they are going to be focusing on for their advocacy efforts. So a lot of this had to do with the licensing of the CPA, then that workforce development, and then of course also looking at the deregulation and CPE and ensuring that we are going to be providing information to those states that are kind of going through this. The state of Florida had a bill last year that they defeated, but it looks like it's going to be coming back. That's really talking about getting rid of a lot of the regulations around licensing. And then a little bit of looking ahead to what we're going to be working towards as we move into 2026. The last area that we have is our workforce and talent update. So one thing that we were seeing that is of note is that rather than saying pipeline, we're probably getting fatigue out of saying that phrase, pipeline initiatives. It's now going to be known as our workforce development. So this is just kind of a timeline of where we've been. And it does say key pipeline milestones, but that's because this is what it was known as we started this process with MPEG all the way through and now kind of looking at these different licensing pathways. Now, a little bit on the fun side, so I did some marketing and some filming for the AICPA for the RISE 2040 initiative. So here you can see me with fellow Leadership Academy alumni, Kelly Mann, and then a little bit of me filming. And then also I did my very first TikTok video with Lexi Weber, the senior manager of emerging professionals at the AICPA, where she's really engaging students and showing them all the different things that they can do in the CPA profession. And of course, this is a slide that I always have in our updates from council, is talking about all the people and the great opportunities you have to really engage with everybody and connect. So we have pictures here of the Colorado representatives. Then we have Sarah Fleischel and myself with the CEO of the AICPA, Mark Cozell. Then we have another one showing our coffee dates with Lisa Simpson of the AICPA and Catherine Horton. This is a tradition that the three of us do at every council meeting now. And then another one at the opening reception of a couple of us from the AICPA Leadership Academy alumni group. So always wonderful to see everybody and hear updates on what everybody's doing. Also want to bring to your attention that we have a lot of different things going on at Golasso Learning Solutions. You can engage and bring your staff and your seniors to our audit staff level training, or yourself can sign up for this. We have different levels, so level 1 through 4, and these dates do go through the middle of 2026. And you can scan that QR code to see some of those offerings. And here's a little bit about me, but thank you so much for joining me as we looked at one of my favorite things, going to the AICPA Council and some of those updates that were in our profession. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.